With that much of an area flooded, what does that mean for our soil, our crops, and our farmers? Well, that's where we're going to begin tonight. Taylor Jones, a consumer horticulture agent at the NC Ag Extension Office here in Guilford County, is joining us to talk about what their teams are doing west and the environmental impacts. We're also taking your questions. You can text your planting related questions. It is fall planting season. He's got your answers for you. The number is 336-379-5775. All right, so let's kind of talk about what some of your crews have been doing in Western North Carolina this past week.
Yeah, so NC State Extension actually sent out a couple of strike teams to Western North Carolina, and our main concern was the livestock producers in that area. And so oftentimes people don't think about that, but there's been miles and miles of fencing that has been destroyed, as well as livestock feed that's been ruined as well. So Extension has sent out employees there to help distribute some of those goods to the producers out there.
Okay, and so I know you are probably going to be deployed out there at some point in time. And so you're going to be looking at the soil. What are you looking for?
Yeah, so, thinking about all that rain that's come through has really just sort of combined a lot of things, not to mention the actual native soil in the mountains. It's just all sort of mixed up with different things. And so what we have to sort of think about and test for later on is the heavy metals and, bad things that have been mixed into the soil when all the soil does settle, and see how it is, plantable, how well it can do with plants.
Yeah, I saw all that mud. I'm sure you've seen the mud in the pictures in the video as well. How does that play into like how crops might be impacted?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, most of the plants and crops that are planted can't sustain that much moisture, number one, but number two, all of that natural material inside of the soils, it has to have a chance to go away. And with that, a lot of this year's crops and a lot of this year's plants are just going to be, ruined because of the storm. And so, looking forward or looking ahead, we may see some impacts with mountain specific crops in North Carolina, things like apples and different things. So that's just something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I also wondered what it might do to like the Christmas tree farms and things like that.
Yeah. So I don't know a whole lot about the ins and outs of Fraser fir production, but obviously, again, with all of that moisture is number one going to be a root rot issue with a lot of those plants, and number two, the piling up of soil up against the trunks of those trees is going to be a real problem.
All right, and is there anything that we can talk about when it comes to like the impacts that it will have, like other environmental impacts, or how it might impact wildlife in that area?
Yeah, so obviously with the destruction of the native forests and plain, grassland areas up in the mountains, all of that is wildlife habitat. And so with that being destroyed, obviously all of those wildlife species are going to be displaced. And so that's another sort of compounded issue is, a wipeout of local, wildlife in the area. And so with that, they're going to move into areas that we may not necessarily want to see them. And so just another sort of thing that, Western North Carolina is going to have to deal with.
Does flooding bring any kind of like insect or something like that we don't normally see?
I wouldn't think so. Obviously, with standing water, you're going to have a mosquito issue, and so with that, thinking about mosquito protection, and trying to get places dried out as best as you can, as quickly as you can. Now, luckily, we are moving into the colder season of the year, and so some of that will naturally start to degrade and die off. But until we have that cooler weather, we're still going to be dealing with those mosquitoes for sure.
Okay, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be taking your questions when we come back, and we're going to be talking about fall planting. What kind of veggies, what kind of flowers should you be planting now? When should you plant stuff? Because we haven't had our first frost, right? That's right. Okay, so we're going to talk about that and more when we come back.